The crystal glasses clinked as Giovanni Russo raised his hand for a toast. Famiglia's flagship restaurant in Lille, Italy was packed with New York's elite, all gathered to celebrate 50 years of what food critics called Manhattan's crown jewel of Italian cuisine. To family, Giovanni announced, his voice carrying across the renovated dining room. To tradition, to the legacy my mother Rosa built from nothing. To Famiglia, the crowd echoed, while I quietly refilled wine glasses at the main table, playing the role they all expected of me, the waitress who'd somehow married into restaurant royalty. My name is Maria Chin Russo, and until tonight, I'd spent 5 years being the foreign daughter-in-law who was supposedly destroying the Russo family's precious Italian traditions. What they didn't know was that I knew more about those traditions and their true origins than any of them. And now, Giovanni continued, a special announcement. My son Anthony will be taking over as executive chef of all Famiglia restaurants. It's time for the next generation to carry on Rosa's legacy. Applause erupted. My husband Anthony squeezed my hand under the table, but wouldn't meet my eyes. He knew what was coming next. Of course, Giovanni added with a cold smile in my direction, some changes will be necessary. We're returning to traditional management, family only in the kitchen. No more modern influences. The dig was clear. I've been pushing to update some recipes, to adapt to changing tastes while preserving the core flavors that made Famiglia special. But Giovanni had blocked every suggestion, claiming I was trying to destroy his mother's vision. If he only knew the truth about that vision. Don't worry, Maria Sofia, my sister-in-law said sweetly. You can still wait tables. It's what you're best at, right? More snickers from the family table. They loved reminding me how I'd started, a waitress at Famiglia's downtown location, working my way through culinary school. What they didn't know was what I'd discovered during those late nights closing up the restaurant. Actually, I said quietly, I think it's time we talked about Grandma Rosa's real recipes. Giovanni's hand tightened around his wine glass. What are you talking about? The original recipe book, the one in a kitchen safe. Have you ever actually read the notes in the margins? The color drained from Giovanni's face. Behind him, his wife Isabella suddenly looked very interested. Those recipes are family heritage, Giovanni snapped. You have no right. I have every right, I interrupted, pulling out a familiar leather-bound book. Because according to this, they're my heritage too. Anthony finally looked at me, confusion crossing his face. Maria, what's going on? I opened the book, an exact copy of the one in the safe, down to the faded ink and coffee stains. Did you know your grandmother Rosa had an apprentice, a young woman from Shanghai who helped her develop many of Familia's signature dishes? Impossible? Sofia scoffed. Nonna Rosa would never. Lin Wei, I said clearly, my grandmother. The silence that fell over the table was absolute. Even the nearby guests stopped talking, sensing the tension. You're lying, Giovanni finally managed. Am I? Check the original book. Look at the notes in Chinese characters next to each recipe. The modifications that made Rosa's good Italian food into extraordinary fusion cuisine. The secret ingredients that none of you could ever quite figure out. I turned to a specific page, like the special sauce for the veal scallopini. The one food critics rave about. Did you never wonder why it has 5-spice powder, or why the tiramisu has a hint of oolong tea? Isabella gasped softly. She was the current head chef, the one who'd struggled for years to perfectly replicate Rosa's recipes. My grandmother Lin Wei worked with Rosa for 10 years, I continued. They weren't just colleagues, they were partners. They created these recipes together, combining Italian tradition with Chinese techniques. But when Lin Wei died suddenly, Rosa promised to protect her legacy and her share of the business. I pulled out another document, old, yellowed, but still legally binding. This partnership agreement gives Lin Wei's descendants 25% ownership of Famiglia restaurants. Rosa never told you because she knew how you'd react, but she left me a letter, explaining everything. Where? Giovanni's voice cracked. Where did you get these? Remember when you made me inventory the old storage room last year? The one full of Rosa's personal items that none of you could be bothered to sort through. I found her private papers, including her letters to my grandmother and her instructions for me. Anthony was staring at the recipe book, recognition dawning. The Chinese characters. I always thought they were just decorative marks. Their notes about temperature control, ingredient ratios, timing. The real secrets behind what makes Famiglia's food special. I stood up slowly. Rosa knew someday the family would try to erase this history. That's why she left everything documented. She believed food should bring people together, not divide them. If what you're saying is true, Isabella said carefully, then all these years we've been following a beautiful fusion of two culinary traditions. Yes, Rosa and Lin Wei created something unique, better than either could have done alone. That's the real legacy you've been fighting so hard to protect. Giovanni slammed his hand on the table. I won't let you destroy my mother's reputation with these lies. Then let's go to the safe right now, I suggested. Let's compare my copy to the original. Let's look at all the documentation Rosa left. Unless you're afraid of what we'll find. The room had gone completely silent. Dozens of New York's food critics and restaurant owners watched the drama unfold, phones discreetly recording every word. The safe, Anthony said suddenly, standing up. We need to see the safe. Giovanni tried to protest, but Anthony was already heading toward the kitchen, key ring in hand. I followed, along with Isabella, Sophia, and several very interested family members. The safe had been in the kitchen since the restaurant opened. It was Rosa's personal vault, passed down to Giovanni, but rarely opened. As Anthony's hands shook with the combination, I thought about all the years of denial, of hidden history, of a partnership erased by prejudice. The heavy door swung open. Inside, wrapped in silk cloth, lay the original recipe book. Time to show the Russo family what legacy really means. The Famiglia kitchen fell silent as Anthony opened the old recipe book. The leather cover crackled, releasing the scent of aged paper and dried herbs. Giovanni stood rigid, while Isabella leaned forward, her chef's eyes scanning the yellowed pages. My God, Isabella whispered. The Chinese characters, they're everywhere. And these notes in Rosa's handwriting. I pointed to a specific page. Look at the date, 1972. The year Famiglia opened. See how the recipe evolved. The Italian base with Chinese techniques layered in. Both sets of handwriting working together. Anthony turned the pages slowly, realization dawning. These aren't just notes. They're conversations. Rosa and Lin Wei were collaborating. More than collaborating, I said softly. Read the margin on the ossobuco recipe. Isabella translated the Italian script. Lin's 5-spice blend makes everything better. We're not just business partners anymore. We're sisters in the kitchen. This was Rosa's handwriting. Giovanni grabbed the book. This proves nothing. So my mother had help from some Chinese cook. That doesn't make you. Turn to the last page. I interrupted. He did. And a document slipped out. The original partnership agreement, dated 1972, signed by both Rosa Russo and Lin Wei. But it was the letter behind it that made Giovanni's hands shake. My dearest Maria, if you're reading this, you finally found the truth I've protected for so long. Lin Wei wasn't just my business partner. She was the heart of Famiglia. Her genius with spices and techniques made our good food extraordinary. When she died so young, I promised to protect her share for her family. I knew my son Giovanni would never accept a Chinese woman as co-founder, so I kept the truth hidden. But I've watched you working in our restaurant, seeing how you combine both traditions with the same passion Lin had. The partnership agreement is still valid. Lin's 25% share belongs to you now. Use it wisely. Remember, the best recipes, like the best families, aren't pure anything. They're beautiful combinations. With love, Rosa Russo. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. Then Isabella spoke up. The oolong tea and the tiramisu. I could never figure out why Rosa insisted on it. And the 5-spice in all our base sauces. My grandmother's touches, I explained. She believed small changes could make familiar dishes extraordinary. Rosa agreed. All these years, Anthony said quietly, we've been profiting from Lin Wei's work without acknowledging her. Or her family, Sophia added, looking at me differently now. Giovanni wasn't done fighting. This changes nothing. I'm still majority owner. I'll never let you. Actually, a new voice cut in. It changes everything. We all turned to see Marco Romano, our restaurant group's lawyer, standing in the doorway. He'd followed us into the kitchen. That partnership agreement is legally binding, Marco explained. And according to New York business law, deliberately concealing a founding partner's ownership stake is fraud. The statute of limitations doesn't apply because the fraud was ongoing. What are you saying? Giovanni demanded. I'm saying that Ms. Chen Russo could sue for back payments on all profits from her grandmother's share. 25 years of earnings from 6 restaurants. Marco adjusted his glasses, plus punitive damages for the deliberate concealment. The color drained from Giovanni's face. But that's not what I want, I said quietly. I don't want to damage Famiglia. I want to honor both our grandmother's legacies. I pulled out my own folder, the business plan I've been developing for months. Famiglia should celebrate its true history. We'll launch a new menu that proudly shows how Rosa and Lin Wei created something unique. Italian foundations with Chinese influences. We'll tell their story, 2 immigrant women who built something extraordinary together. The press will love it, Sophia mused, her PR instincts kicking in. First-generation immigrant women, secret partnership, hidden culinary fusion. It's a perfect story. The food critics are already tweeting about it, Marco added, checking his phone. Someone in the dining room recorded your whole speech. Giovanni slumped against the counter. You'll destroy our reputation as an authentic Italian restaurant. No, Isabella said firmly. We'll finally be authentic about who we really are. She turned to me. The subtle Asian influences, they're why our food stands out, isn't they? Why no other Italian restaurant can quite match our flavors? I nodded. Rosa and Lin Wei created something unique, something better than authentic. They created fusion cuisine before it had a name. Over the next month, Famiglia underwent a transformation. We launched a special 50th anniversary menu featuring the original Rosa Lin recipes, each dish accompanied by its story. Food critics raved about the rediscovered culinary heritage. Our reservations doubled. The dining room walls, once decorated only with photos of the Russo family, now included a prominent picture of Rosa and Lin Wei together in the original kitchen. Giovanni grumbled but couldn't argue with the surge in business and glowing press coverage. Anthony stepped up as executive chef, but with a difference. He insisted I work alongside him as co-executive chef, combining our culinary backgrounds just like our grandmothers had. Together, we developed new dishes that honored both traditions. Isabella became our strongest ally, diving into the original recipe book with passion. I've been cooking these dishes for 30 years, she said, but now I finally understand them. Sophia's PR campaign about Famiglia's rediscovered roots went viral. Food magazines featured us in their Women in Culinary History issues. The story of Rosa and Lin Wei's partnership became a symbol of immigrant women supporting each other in 1970s New York. 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of our newest location, Famiglia Rosa and Lin, our first restaurant specifically celebrating Italian-Chinese fusion cuisine. The waiting list was 3 months long. Your grandmother would be proud, Anthony said, wrapping his arms around me as we watched our staff prepare for dinner service. Both of them would be. On the wall hung a framed page from the original recipe book showing Rosa and Lin Wei's handwriting intertwined, creating something new and wonderful together. Below it, Rosa's words remained our motto. The best recipes, like the best families, aren't pure anything. They're beautiful combinations. Giovanni still runs the restaurant group, but things have changed. At board meetings, he has to acknowledge me as an equal partner. Sometimes I catch him studying the photo of Rosa and Lin Wei, perhaps finally understanding what his mother had known all along. That tradition isn't about purity, it's about adaptation and growth. We still serve Rosa's original tiramisu, with Lin Wei's secret oolong tea touch. Every time I make it, I think about 2 young immigrant women in 1972, daring to believe that their different backgrounds could create something extraordinary. They were right.